Welcome to the first Digital Strategy Forum of this academic year. Here's a brief summary of the day. A day brought to you by the Innovation in Learning and ITS teams at Trust Office. Our vision at the GDST is to be pioneers in and shapers of the future of girls' education. And I think it's difficult to talk about pioneering and the future without bringing in technology. But the technology that you initially think of may not actually be the type of technology that's most effective in schools. At last year's GDST Summit, Cheryl said, if the girls in our schools are to storm new frontiers like never before, we have to equip them to change the world and create a better future for the benefit of all. And if we're truly going to equip girls with the appropriate skills to be change makers, technology has to be part of the conversation. In Anthony Seldon's book, The Fourth Education Revolution, he says that UK schools are actually already doing a pretty good job at preparing students. The issue is that we're preparing them for last century, and that's because we still are in the industrial model of schooling. The issue is that in 20 years' time, 47% of current jobs are likely to be done by machines, and it's algorithmic and creative thinking that's going to be highly valued. So we took some time to look at the most and least vulnerable sorts of jobs and careers out there. I'm just going to point out a few quickly. You can see teachers, bottom left corner, low paid, but least vulnerable to automation. I think if a robot can replace a teacher, it should. We talked about things like physicians and surgeons also being on the least vulnerable side, even though there's a lot of disruption and innovation happening in the medical space. Computer programmers actually aren't on the full left side. They're more in the middle, and that's because a lot of coding is being automated. Bottom right corner, that's what we're trying to avoid, those most vulnerable sectors. Those are the key kind of areas that are going to be automated by technology. Technology has created more jobs than it's destroyed. It says 145 years of data. And I think it's our job in schools to look at those sorts of trends in the workforce and to be able to appropriately equip girls to flourish in the future. At last week's GDST Summit, Daniel Susskind talked a lot about the changing of professions, and he talked about the automation of traditional jobs and the role that AI is going to play. And he ended his panel spot by saying, it worries me that we're teaching things in a way that computers are already very good at doing. And some of the examples he gave where it was an app where you could just take a picture of a math equation and it would give you all the workings and the appropriate answer. We see things like the rote memorization of facts that could easily be Googled. There's a lot of examples in our school. So what do we need to encourage in our schools to equip our girls for the future? Well, the World Economic Forum released the Future of Jobs report in 2018, and it lists trending skills in 2022 as analytical thinking, active learning, creativity, technology design, critical thinking, complex problem solving, leadership, emotional intelligence, reasoning, systems analysis, and evaluation. Some of the declining skills include things like manual dexterity. As an English teacher, I'm horrified to see reading and writing are on the declining list. But there is a lot of research coming out of higher education that suggests that we are maybe swinging back towards a more oral culture. And then you can see at the bottom there in declining technology use. So actually using computers is becoming a bit more automated. So what does this actually look like? We say these future skills are important. Well, let's look at an example of how we might apply this in an educational setting. So we completed Breakout EDU boxes, which essentially are escape rooms in a box. So I put out boxes on the table and with clues where digital leaders needed to solve these sorts of riddles to get the combinations to open up these boxes. So they had to work together, they had to think creatively, they even had to move around the room and actually work with each other to solve these boxes. Once this activity is completed, the Breakout EDU boxes actually come with reflection cards to push that metacognition piece. So not only is it a way to encourage those future skills, you can get students and teachers actually thinking and talking about what those key skills are. So a little background on this. This is a 20% project from people at Google. So essentially programmers and engineers were concerned that these types of skills aren't being embedded in schools. So they tried to think of a non-digital method that these sorts of skills could be encouraged, that could be a sort of bridge to between where schools were and where they hope them to be. We do have 3 of these boxes available at Trust Office, so if you're interested in borrowing them for an open day or an inset day or even just a classroom activity, then contact me and we'll try to work out how to get them out to the schools. We've used these breakout boxes down in Brighton with the teachers, and the teachers have then been using them with students. And I think the real beauty of this activity is not just getting the girls to complete these breakout boxes, but getting the girls to design them. That is that higher order thinking that we are after. So when we talk about technology use in schools, it's actually these future skills that are most important in grounding the why of technology.